Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? Welcome to Tuesday, favorite day of the week, more or less, after Friday, I guess, because that's when the whole weekend starts. But Tuesday means streaming and working on this tool. How's good? Good to have you here. Good evening, guys from India. Yeah, good to have you online, Yogi. How's things? Got my coffee ready, second cup of the day. Got my I Love MLS shirt on, and I'm actually hoping that we can do some of that today. Apart from the repo itself, I transparent coffee. Yeah, John, I know. It's like, whoa! Look at that. It's pretty cool actually. So yeah, you can have like it's like a green cup actually. It's pretty cool. So almost chroma white green. Cool. Yeah, Yogi, I enabled GitHub sponsors in GitHub, and John has very gracefully started sponsoring me. Thank you, John. You're actually currently buying me a cup of coffee every month from Starbucks, or multiple from home, which is awesome. So thank you for doing that, John. I appreciate that. As you all know, I don't do this for my work. I do this completely voluntarily. I do this for fun, and it's a lot of work sometimes, a lot of hours, and I love it. It's something I really enjoy doing, but to make it sustainable in the long run, to contribute more, I'm hoping that GitHub sponsors as well as Twitch is something that can pan out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, but it's a great avenue to get started for sure. So that's cool. Well, there's been a lot of activity in the repo as of late. We have 7 contributors so far, which is really, really awesome. And I wake up in the morning and I have like 6 pull requests to review sometimes, which is fantastic. It's been really fun to see this grow, and it's actually almost to a point now I think that SDK is usable for many scenarios, which I think is going to be super fun. But you didn't join me for talking, so I'm going to go back to what we want to look at today and kind of see what we're going to start with. So repos up here. I want to go a little bit through what we have done so far this weekend, because I know I did quite a few streams this weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was quite a bit of work being done here by multiple people, so I kind of want to walk you through a little bit what's been added and changed here to get you all up to speed here. So we have 36 PRs closed. There's a couple of notable ones. The first notable ones is that we have installed Dependabot into our repo, which means that we have this bot automatically checking our dependencies. As soon as a new version comes out for test framework or something else, it's going to open a PR up, put the PR information in there with release notes and everything else, and it's going to be really, really sweet. So that allows us to not have to worry about updating dependencies ourselves. Some other things that happen is that Steve has done some great work here. So he has added something called an MLOps builder here to create our instances. So if you remember before, we did this that we just created an ML lifecycle manager and then configured that with Azure or something else. And what Steve has done now, he has created a builder instead, so we can actually configure this a bit easier and reuse it. So that's really cool. And we have done some other things too. Actually, I can go into the code and show you here. So you can see here that we have 2 main folders now, one with the source and one with the test projects. And we've added quite a few test projects, which is really, really awesome to see, and I want to keep building on this to get some automation going. But in general, what we have now is our lifecycle manager, and which gets configured using the MLOps builder here. So the MLOps builder allows us to create an instance of this object that is used by the clients and the consumers. And we can either use different various metadata stores. So for example, if you want to use Azure, we'll go into the builder extensions here and say, okay, use Azure storage, and what we'll do is wire up things for us here for both the model repository as well as the blob containers and table storage. And if you want to use SQLite locally, we can then do the same thing here, and it will do the same thing. But this pattern allows us to configure it completely random. So maybe you want to do your model repository locally on a file share, and maybe you want to do your metadata storage in, let's say, no table storage in Azure. So that could be really cool there as well. Hey Sammy, good to have you online. Thank you for telling your name as well. I always wondered if you were on the stream, Sammy, or not. I'm glad to know that. Morning, Daniel. How's it going? We got a whole group here on the stream today. So I was running by kind of the changes that's been happening here this morning to make sure that we kind of get up to date here. One thing that's kind of happened from Steve here is, I think you all seen here, is the model MLOps builder here, which is really useful. And what we can eventually do here is kind of divide them up into smaller things, which would be good. And things. But let me add a list here. I want to add a little notepad list here of things I want to get done today. And if there's anything you want to see get done as well, let me know and we'll look at that. I don't want to take too much. I know that some of you have some issues that you want to work on, so I'm not going to try to steal those from you. Morning, Dan. How's it going? Good to have you on the line. Got a good crowd today. I love Tuesdays. What do you think about my transparent coffee cup? Almost. It's slightly green, so slightly green. Alright, so a couple of things I want to do today is I want to rename our mouthful here, ML Lifecycle Manager to MLOps Context. I think that's going to be useful. Quick one, simple and easy. Okay, thank you, Daniel. I'll look at that later as well. So let's do that. I want to run SQLite integration tests locally, since I have you on the line, Daniel, to get that working. And I want to publish, I want to add unit tests into our CI pipeline. So we have 4 test projects. It's working on your machine. That's the issue, Daniel. It's not working on my machine. Well, I don't have them here right now, but I never use SQLite, so I'm just blaming it because I'm a newbie on this. But I got experts on the line, so I'm confident we can get it fixed. But we have unit test projects here. We got 2 unit test projects, so I want to make sure we go ahead and add those to our, let's see, up here, to our CI pipeline. And then at some point later, maybe today, we'll add our integration test as well to our CI pipeline. So as soon as we run these things, they should be working properly, and that'll be fun. So some kind of stuff like that. What I also want to do here is I want to publish a new alpha package to NuGet.org, because we have one that's pretty old, and now we have a pretty stable API, honestly. I'm really happy with what we've done so far, and we can even get some of the metadata so we can build our Blazor client. So I want to publish that to NuGet and make sure we show that. And then I want to start with examples. So I know, Sammy, that you are doing some of the samples already, and that's great. Please continue doing that. I will start uploading a couple samples, I think, that I have just personally done on my own machine, so we can kind of see how that will be used. And the more we have, the better, because I think it will vary depending on what use case we have, what kind of model we're training. Cool. Does it make sense so far? If it doesn't make sense, let me know. We got tons of issues here, so if you want to grab one and do it, then that's awesome. Okay, Frax, what are we saying here? I was thinking it might make sense to use something like this for the directory. Integration tests don't work on Ubuntu at all right now. Yes, that's a good idea as well. Yeah, we're definitely going to have some environmental issues with running it on the GitHub Actions in our Ubuntu instance. That's kind of why I'm leaving that a little bit, so we may get there today, but we may not. But it will be really cool if we can install SQLite on that one and figure out how to configure that to get it working properly. So any insight in that, and if you want to open an issue for it, Frax, and look at it, that's even better actually. So one of the things that's currently being done as well that Steve did is that every time we build our CI pipeline, we are publishing packages to GitHub packages here, which I think is so awesome. Let me show you the workflow file here. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it, but this is top stuff. It was actually really funny. Like, if you know Nick Craver, who runs like Stack Overflow, one of the biggest, I guess he's the founder of that. He published a question today or yesterday on Twitter about like how to do this because he had issues with it, and Steve actually answered him with our workflow file. So how cool is that? Like the founder of Stack Overflow got a link to our repository because we had a workflow file that did what he wanted to do. So I think that was super awesome. But what Steve was adding here was this part right here. So he added the fact that every time we do our build, both PR builds and CI builds, we do pack our package to a NuGet package, and we publish it to our GitHub repository. So not to NuGet.org, but to GitHub. And that ends up being here. So if you ever want to use some of these packages before the release of NuGet.org, you can fetch them from the repo itself. And each time you build it, update it. So when we build to the master branch, so when you merge the PR, what's happening is that it will automatically increment this number here to 47, and it will keep the alpha number. But if you run a PR build, so let's say we have one here for AJ, he's running a PR build here. What happens is that we will append the git commit as well. So if you look at what AJ has here, he has these artifacts from the build. It's the same kind of thing here, but we have the git commit associated with it as well, so we kind of know those. And they don't get published necessarily straight away, but they get associated with the build. So if he wants to pull them down for an example or something else to test with, he can do that there. So cool stuff. I'm just super happy that you all are jumping on this and helping out. I think it's turning out really nicely. All right, I will jump into some code here. So what I want to do is start by just renaming our MLOps, ML Lifecycle Manager here to something that is not a mouthful to pronunciate for someone like me, a Swede, that can't speak English properly. So we'll go ahead and do that. And let me get some music for myself here as well. Good. Cool. So how's everyone's day going so far? Or a week, I guess. Start of it, staying busy. Hopefully so. So Luis had a great name here, MLOps context. I like that a lot because that kind of plays on the ML context that we have from ML.net without being too awkward. And it also kind of explains more about what this repo is really doing. It's doing MLOps, and it's the context of the MLOps, because we will have a lot of actions on this specific instance here. You know, we're going to do work with metadata, we're going to work with models and artifacts and other things. So to me, this makes more sense, and it streamlines things a bit better. So same thing here. We'll do this and change it to IMLOps context. And that should be good. And this one too. All right. So another cool thing we've done here is we've added summary comments for each of these methods. So when we use IntelliSense as a client or consuming a package, we will get all these things here nicely so we can understand what we're doing here. And we're adding this inherit docs tag here to our implementing classes, so we don't have to duplicate our comments. Another thing you should all know about if you want to contribute to repo is that we have done this. Don't do that, please. We have done this. So we're treating warnings as errors right now, which is something I always wanted to do in any project I worked on, but I never had a chance to do it. So this means that anytime you have a compiler warning that we usually ignore, right? It's like I mean, we had like thousands on the project I work on right now. But anytime we have that right now, we are going to break. It's going to be a build failure. So we're going to try to keep the warnings down and really do best practices here. And I mean, right, John? Like, in theory, right, I would like to do it everywhere, but you always end up inheriting a project where it's not been enabled on, and then you have like 1,000 warnings. And you have to get down to 0, but by the time you get down to 0, we have some more added from something else, and it's just it's a war you will never win. So we're gonna start off by enabling that right now, and you may hate me for it, but I think that you on the line here and they're contributing actually really likes this, so that'd be awesome. And John, I like that you have you have like a nice little emoji on your chat actually, which is really cool. So that's good. All right, so we have renamed this to MLOps context. That is awesome. That looks really clean. I'm going to sneak in some other changes here at the same time, because I haven't looked at the code for a few days, well, since yesterday, I guess. At the same time here, to add some read-only things. I'm trying to keep up with all of you that are contributing here. So if you build this, hopefully it'll build. We'll push this real quick, get this just out of the way. I was waiting to do this change until a lot of your all changes were made, because I didn't want any build conflicts with you all, because I know you were doing some important stuff. But now you're all watching me instead, so I get to do it. Sneak it in. Alright, we'll change this to MLOps context. Another thing we've also done in the repo is that I have added a bot to the repo that it will automatically close all of your branches when you merge it. So we don't need to keep up with that anymore and do that kind of manual stuff. Alright. If you have any more of those suggestions, definitely let me know. We can install more bots as well if there's something like stale issue or something like that that you want to do. Alright, that's a simple change. We renamed this and that is much cleaner. Push that up. Let's see. So how many has ordered the shirts from John yet so far? John, how many do you have in your backlog? I guess it's closing in like 3 weeks or something like that. You should definitely get a shirt if you can. Life cycle manager to MLOps. Fixes issue 59. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to ask for a review on this one. For anyone on the line that are able to review. And I think I will ask from Please, and I still don't think I can add from you, Daniel. You may not have accepted the permissions there yet. Great. Wow, you were fast here. Okay. Alright. If anyone on the line with review permissions on there, please review. Otherwise, I will merge it myself in a bit still. But until then, we can continue doing some other fun stuff. So we've done that. Yeah, it may definitely take longer. Alright, we're on that. I am going to... do you want to have a go at trying the SQLite integration tests real quick before we go into the CI pipeline here? You can try Daniel this. You should be able to approve this one. I couldn't add you as a reviewer, which probably means that you haven't accepted the invitation, but you can try to review it if you wanted to. If not, then I will just merge it later. I'll put it in this chat right now. Cool. So, since I have you on the line, Daniel, I'm going to try to run the test here with you. We can see if we run the test that we have our SQLite integration test failing, I think. And I do want them to pass. So we at least make sure that works. And let's see if this works. Okay, so they fail, but everything else passes. And it's probably something on my setup here. So, let's pin this one here. And let's look at why they're failing. So, I think this is just a faulty message. I think the issue is that we can't actually create a context, and that's probably the issue. So you said, Daniel, that I need to create this folder before, right? Is that what you need to do? I'll send you an email later, Daniel, to get invited, no worries. So what I've done yesterday, and I'm not a SQLite expert, so I will just show you what I've done, is that I have... I've downloaded... Okay. Let me show you what I've done before that. I downloaded SQLite, and I've got both the application and the DLLs here locally, and I've added these into my path here. Did that yesterday, and so that should be, I guess, enough, right, to get it working. But what I will do as well is also add the MLOps folder here locally, since you think that's something we need to do. And let's try this again and see if this runs. Get this passing. Let's see. Did it already finish? Let me debug this and I'll show you where it's failing. Let's see if you can kind of figure out this together here. Oh, okay. No need for installation? Really? So you see here, Daniel, if I do this, and we configure the MLOps context here, which is just fine. If you go into run and create experiment here, and we go into the SQLite implementation of create experiment, and try to do the async here, when I do my local DB context right here, oh, okay, good, it fails. See, that's where it fails. So I'm not sure why it's failing. And that's really good to know, but actually let me go into the, since we actually created local context here, let me debug it again and see if I can figure out where it's breaking here for me. But that's reassuring, Daniel, that the NuGet package should handle this for me. Okay. So I think it's probably breaking here. Yeah. So it's breaking in that specific ensure database created phase here. Ensure created call right here. That's where it's failing. So I'm not sure what I'm missing here. I can try to remove it from my path as well, but I think it didn't work before I did that neither. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the key here or not. Let me... Okay, they're all paused. That's good. Okay. Well, I can hold on to this. Yes, I created MLOps. I don't think that's the issue because I have one right here. But it's not failing on that specific part, I think. Where is it? If you look at the MLOps builder extensions here for SQLite, destination folder, this has to do with this specific part here, and not so much with the SQLite implementation, I think. So I think that's not necessarily the issue here, and I think it's something else going on here. Let me do a quick Google here, and if you don't show up anything, we can always come back to this later. I wish I would be able to see. Actually, we can put a try catch around it. SQLite. Okay. Do I need to run anything before we get this working? Alright, what we can try here is we can try to put a try catch around that specific part here and see if we can actually get the better exception here for now. Because I would like to see what's happening here, and it doesn't seem like we have that information. So let's run this again. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, this is why we want to get into the CI pipeline so we can get it working as well for everyone. Okay. Well, that sucks. Oh, it's great. When you have like a break on warnings, it breaks on that you don't use the variable, so. I love it. It's like, wait, what's going on? And it's like, oh, that's what's going on. You see? See how easy that would be to just merge that in eventually and like, oh. And suddenly you have a warning that you have to deal with. Alright, so here we go. Perfect. Okay, so we get... Sean, how's it going? I'll let you know what we're doing today. This is the recipe of today. So we're trying to get the SQLite integration test to run locally, real quick here. And if it doesn't work, we'll leave it. But that's what we want to do. We then want to start at least adding our unit tests, our 3 unit test projects into our CI pipeline so they run. At some point we'll do the integration test as well, but maybe not right now. We do want to get a new published package to Nougat.org, and then I want to start working on examples. So I want to create some actual machine learning projects using this, and we can upload those examples to the repo so you can see how we want to use it and why it's like makes sense to use it in a certain way. So hopefully that sounds good. But right now I want to see this exception here that I'm getting on my machine, and Daniel is not getting on his machine. So we are having an issue with the run, I think, run interface. The property runs is an interface type. If it's a negation configuration, okay. So we have an issue with the run one. So I'm surprised that it works for you. And we added runs before, so maybe you didn't get the latest here, Daniel. That's probably the reason here. So I think exactly, yeah. What I think we forgot to do here is adding not mapped attribute to these ones, because we don't want to map them. So I think we just need to do that here. So on this one we want to have not mapped, and on the metric experiment here as well, not mapped. Fetch that attribute here. Metric should be fine. Cool. Let's see if that works. I think that's going to work actually. And I'll show you what we did this from the beginning as well. We had a working session with AJ and Daniel on this to make sure we can fetch all the experiments as well locally. Okay. Ta-da! It works. So I think what happened, Daniel, is that you don't have the latest code on your computer that me and AJ and Daniel was working on this weekend. And that's why it's passing for you. But that's good. Let's fix this. So we fixed the unit test. We're going to remove the code we don't want to change here. And let's open a PR with this fix. So we don't need that. Okay. I'll open a real quick an issue here. Issues. Make a bug. SQL light. Integration tests are failing due to not mapped attributes. Alright, I'm going to be just like this. I think we all know what that means right now. I just want something to tag this to. Alright, so we have issue 86. We'll get this up real quick here. New branch. We'll go pull that from master. I mean, this is the reason why we need this integration test to run in our actions, because that's the only way we can find these things. Publish that up, open a PR, get this working. What are you going to fix, Daniel? Are you going to add those to the CI pipeline or something else? What do you want to do? I'm fixing the missing attributes right now, so hopefully. There you go. Okay. Let's see, issue fixes 86. So how's it going, Shan? Thank you for your contribution so far, by the way. It's awesome. Glad to see you're chiming in here. Attributes. Okay, PR. Okay, perfect. That would be great, Daniel. Good, you can improve it. So this PR right here is going to fix that. And since I think we're all kind of in agreement here on the line, let's see if is anyone disagreeing that this is a good one. Exactly, Daniel. So that specific integration test I'm fixing right now here by adding this PR right here. So if you think it looks good, I'm going to merge this directly without a review, since you're all on the line that would review it otherwise. Going once, going twice. Awesome, Chan. Yeah, definitely. We'll get some sample projects up for you so you can see how it's going to be used. And yep, Daniel, that's exactly what I'm getting. That's exactly what we're trying to solve here. So if this build runs, I'm going to just merge this PR. Let's wait for this real quick. Okay, it's currently building solution. I think that looks good. Love that. 0 warnings. I love 0 warnings. Ta-da! Okay, that passes. I'm going to use my admin privileges to merge this because you're all on the line and you're not disagreeing. And I'll also go ahead and merge this one here so we can get that in, which is renamed Lifecycle Manage Envelopes Context. Thank you, Steve. Awesome. I'll take that as a review. Are you on the line, Steve, as well? On the stream today? Alright. Sounds good. So we got those working. So now if you run all the tests here, they should all pass locally. So let's do that real quick. And then we'll go ahead and add them to the CI pipeline, I think, as a next step here. And get them running at least. And then we'll go into the samples, because I want to do the samples. Alright. And they all pass. Perfect. So we have integration tests here, and I do want to add additional ones for Azure eventually, so you can make sure that things work with the Storage Explorer and those things. And I'll just add my own storage, my own Azure account to Secrets later, so we can use that. I got some Azure credits from being an MVP, so great then. Catch you later. Have a good one. But I wanted to add these 3 tests here to run in our CI pipeline at least, so our unit tests are passing and things are working. For example, these extensions here, making sure that we are configuring things properly. So let's go ahead and change our action file here to do that, and see if I can remember how to do that. Okay. Interesting. Did our last one fail? Nice, okay. I'll have to look at that, Frax. Let me see why this failed first. I think I may have merged it before we resolved. Oh. Is it because we merged things together? Okay. Let's rerun this real quick here to see if that passes. Hey Ravi, good to have you on the stream today. So Ravi and I are going back into our ML.NET exploring, I guess, on Saturday, right, Ravi? To do some machine learning coding and not the DevOps stuff. Cool, that'd be fun. Looking forward to it. Alright, so let's make sure this builds and pushes correctly before we do anything else. Yes, on the same channel, I think, Chan. So every Saturday, me and Ravi, we do like a ML.NET for beginners session. So Ravi's trying to learn ML.NET, and we've done 2 sessions so far, going from scratch with the machine learning and building machine learning models from there. So on Saturdays, I try to dedicate this stream more to like actual machine learning and actually teaching that a bit more. And on Tuesdays and the rest of the week, I try to contribute to this repo and get that working with you all. Alright, that passes. We may go to Ravi's channel at some point. That's up to Ravi as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and fix this workflow file here and add some tests here. So we can always look in the marketplace, I'm sure, or we can do something else here. I think what we want to do here is, after we build here, we just copy this one right here. We'll say, how's it going? What's your name, MBR Dev? I saw that you started following me this morning. Good to have you on the line today. Unit test. Okay, perfect. Right, so I wonder if there's a way to run multiple unit tests here at the same time, or if you want to do I think we want to do is, can we run like a wildcard here for all tests on specific format, I think, right? So if you look at our repo here, we want to run tests that we want to have anything that ends with test without integration tests, and then we want to run those. Yes, Frax, I think that we can do that. I'm just worried about running the integration tests. If we do that, then we'll run those as well, and they'll probably fail. But we can try that, honestly, and see if they pass. I don't think they will pass, but let's try it. Alright, that's true. Okay, so let's see. So we should be able to do this, right? And what's the syntax for the test filter? .NET. So we have a test filter. That's a great idea, Frax. That would be nice, actually, to be able to run things here all the time. Do we have the filter syntax here somewhere? Okay. So, okay. What would that be here? Perfect. Okay, so this is something we want to do, right? So we want a fully qualified name, and then we want something like this. This is for a specific test. We don't want that, but we do want for we could also add a test category too, I guess. Yeah. I think that's the way. I'm glad that you all come to the same conclusion while reading this as well. Alright, let's add a test category to integration tests, and that will be useful for sure. Thanks, guys. So we'll add that to integration test, right? Let's add it to the whole class, right? Category. Does that look good to you guys? If so, we'll go ahead and merge that as well. Perfect. Okay. So let's open. I'll just. I'm gonna push this straight to the master branch. I'll open the PR actually. Do integration tests. Let's bring this over. Alright. Let's get this PR up and reviewed and merged. And out of the way. Alright, that's perfect. I think I generally try to avoid that for unit tests because I guess I want them to run all the time in some sense. And it will be adding an extra attribute for every class. We'll eventually have many more unit tests than integration tests, and I think for now we just want to skip that extra effort to remember to add that all the time. I want the default to always be unit test without inheriting from a base class. Maybe that doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of what I prefer to do, at least. We may need it later, and if so, we'll go ahead and add it later, I think. I hope it's acceptable, Sean. So, Sean, you work for LinkedIn, right? I thought I saw that. Must be a fun job. Alright. That's awesome. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and merge this if this PR build works, so we can get that into our workflow file. I figured, yeah. Do you have a lot of like, is it like has Microsoft imposed themselves on top of LinkedIn, or is it very independent still and just like a little bit of Microsoft? Always wondering about that. Oh, nice. Okay, interesting. Didn't even know LinkedIn used Java. Okay, cool. Alright, we'll merge this one. That's awesome. Alright, so we have that. So now we can actually add a test category here, right? And we should be able to just neglect this one, right? So instead of doing this, so right here, we should be able to do this, right? And do this and this. Does that look right to y'all? So we're doing build, then we're doing test here, and we're running it on the solution, hopefully. We'll do release, no restore. We'll do filter on test category that is not integration. Alright, so we're gonna try, I think I'm gonna just commit this one and see if that works. And that should be fun. What if I create a branch actually, would that actually run that workflow file? Maybe, yeah. We can try that. You're right. Let's try that. Since we built it before, we may save some time here. It's a good try. Good idea. I think actually no restore does that implicitly. I think no restore makes sure we don't run a build, but it doesn't hurt adding it. Running unit test to our CI pipeline. Alright, let's see if this specific PR does this or not. I want to make sure that they run it here properly. That'd be really nice. And that would be nice. Alright, let's look at the CI build. Does it include our unit tests? Okay, good. So this is going to run our unit test hopefully, so we'll know in a bit if that is something that works before we merge it. And if so, that would be fantastic. Install dependencies. All right. Love 0 warnings. Still love 0 warnings. Okay. Look at that. It's running the test files in each project and it's passing. That looks pretty nice to me, honestly. Thank you, Frax, for the suggestion of doing the solution file instead. That's very helpful. And the category is going to be good like that. Anytime we have a new test like this, we are going to just run them by themselves, right? Let's see if this finally is going to work. I think that worked completely right. Okay, so I'm going to see if we have an issue that we can link this to, and then we're going to merge it as well. Okay. Tests, do we have that? Don't think we have an issue for actually running the test here, so let's do that. I'll just add that real quick for auditability. To run unit tests in CI pipeline. Okay. All right. Good. So we have issue 90. Let's go ahead and link that to this one, and then go ahead and merge this so we can get that done and continue our exploration here of other things. Oh, that was not 60. 90, sorry. Wow, 90 already. Alright. I'm going to ask for a review here. It's fine. We'll go ahead and get this merged honestly right now, since you're all on the line that would review this. Alright, perfect. So we've done quite a bit already. So we have fixed running SQLite locally. Thank you, Daniel, and everyone on the line for helping with that. We've added unit tests to our pipeline. That's working. I'm going to probably hold off on this one because we may have issues running that on a new Ubuntu instance. Actually, it should work because we're not using... I don't think we have any tests for the local path right now. I think we only have things for the database instance. So we could try to open a PR with that, or we can try to publish a package to NuGet.org right now first, and then use examples. What do you think we should do? Should we try to add some integration tests and see if they work or not? Or should we try to publish the package to NuGet and then go ahead and add some examples? What do you want to work on? Leaving it up to you to decide in 10 seconds. Okay, perfect. I understand. Let's do that. So I'm going to be lazy when it comes to NuGet. I'm going to just take this downs that we have right now. So we have the latest built artifacts here, and I'm going to fetch those from the workflow file. I'm just going to upload those. I'm going to be lazy. Later what we want to do here is we want to add a workflow file here to push them directly as a manual thing. But for now, we'll just go ahead and get these ones, and we'll go ahead and rerun this one. I'm not sure why this one failed. Let's rerun this one to get the latest to work with. Shan, I know, examples. I'm sorry I haven't got there yet, but I completely agree. We should get some samples going here. After all, that's kind of what I want to stream about, is Emmo.net. But getting drawn into this fun thing here. Alright, so NuGet.org, let's get that open here. I think I'm logged in. Let me do that over here real quick, 1 second. Make sure we get logged in here so we can publish these packages. I'm just going to upload those real raw right now. But then we can all use them, which is going to be fun. Ugh, sorry, I have to verify my email. Or verify my account on dual authentication, which makes sense, I guess. Alright. Security code. Alright, perfect. So let's go back here. So we have our packages right here. Totally get it. So we have our packages right now, and there's like the first one right here. So let's go ahead and download the artifact if they passed before. So let me do this and push them here so we can all use it. And why doesn't this work? I'm wondering. Do we have an issue here with this push? So I think we've broken our CI pipeline for pushing packages by some reason here, and that's probably what happened was when we did a test. And we can fix that later, I think, but let me look at that real quick why that's happening, and if we can't solve it, we'll just take the ones we have because they'll be fine. So why would that be failing? So we added tests right here, and then we added pack command, and it should definitely be able to find the API key for this. It's because no build. Start. Yeah, it says it already exists, right? Is that what it's doing? It seemed like it was an API key issue here, right? Your packet was pushed. What is it saying here? Oh, okay. That is fascinating. I wonder if we have an issue with that. Oh, we have a by some reason we have one package here but not the other one. Okay, let me just add a simple readme commit here and see if that fixes it. But there's something that's going on here that has to do with duplicates here. Let's see if this increments the depth of this to get it fully working. That should not be the case for sure. We don't want that. Come on. While I do that, I'm going to open up some examples here that we can look at. And we'll also open up some other fun stuff here and open up a Visual Studio command prompt for that, so we can start building our examples out a bit. And open this up. So while it's running and waiting for that, so we have a couple of examples here that we can use that I created for Jupyter Notebooks. So we're going to base some of our things on that, and we are going to kind of recreate it in Visual Studio for us to do here. I think that's the easiest thing. I think one thing we want to do is some multi-class classification, so we can open that up and look at it, and we can recreate that in Studio and kind of add the things we're missing here as well. Let's see, but before that, did this work properly? Okay, now I push properly. If you look at this one, we should have 52. Alright, good. So let's go and take this package first real quick here and push this to NuGet. I'm just going to download this one here because that holds my packages. I'm going to see we have all these here, so we can extract these out. And let's go ahead and drop them into NuGet and get them available for everyone here to use and play with. Can I do add new? Is that it? Go ahead and drop them maybe. Let's pull them over here. One moment. Okay, that looks good. Alright. So this is going to be the, I guess the main package here, which is the one we want to do. It looks good. It has a new version. Had the license information added, and nothing really special here. So we'll go ahead and submit this one. And then we'll go ahead and add other ones here. So upload. Oh, well, actually it has an upload package thing here as well. And I'll look at that issue in just a bit, Sean. Let me get the other ones going so we can keep going here. Let's get the SQL one here for Azure. We'll submit that one. And then we'll do the last one and final one here, the SQLite package. No. Here. Okay, so if you look at our packages right now. Okay, I see. Okay, so there's actually an issue we have. Well, we did run it again, but we had to do an extra change for that. So we have some of these working, so it's being validated right now, but eventually we're going to get this pushed up, and you can use it as well locally, and we can have some fun with it. The really cool thing here is I think that we already have 50 downloads on this package without actually having any useful API. So hopefully this will be more useful and get that going. Alright, so we published our Elf package to NuGet. This is actually something I'm really proud of we're doing. It's going to be something we can use more. So thank you all for contributing to that. That is awesome. But let's go to examples now, because that's what we want to do here. So to do that, let's look at an example first locally. And I'll skim through it, and then we'll start building it and really dive into it ourselves here. So one thing we can do here is multi-class classification. And what that means is we're going to decide one of multiple categories. In our example here, what we're doing is we are using an e-commerce sample for product categories. So we have a list of product names and category, price, description, brand. And to make this a bit easier, we can look at the data right here actually. And let me take a couple more here, and we'll run all the cells, and we'll look at it. So what I'm using to do this right now is something called Interact.io, and it's like a Jupyter Notebook desktop app. It's Jupyter Notebooks. And if you want to do this in MLOps in production, you don't run Jupyter Notebooks, you run them in Visual Studio in C# code instead. So this is mostly just to showcase the data a bit. So we want to transform this to C# code in Studio later. But what we're doing here is just adding our dependencies. So dependencies to ML.NET here. We're adding dependencies to some libraries. We're creating a class to do things, and it's failing. And some other stuff. But since it's failing in this one, I'm going to start writing the code instead in Visual Studio, instead of playing around with this one too much. But essentially what we're trying to do here, and let me pull up the actual data here so we can see that. ML.NET Jupyter, oh, Git, sorry, Git. ML.NET Jupyter, right here. So what we're trying to do here is a data view version. We're trying to do data sets. This e-commerce worksheet here. So let's look at that. In this case here, we have is multiple labels or categories. So we have the product name to the left here, we have a category, we have the price, we have the description, we have the brand, right? So we have multiple, let's say we have like Amazon and you just dumped all the data in here, and that's kind of what we have. But what we want to do here is we don't want to automatically or manually label this category. We want the category to be automatically predicted for us based on like the name and the price and description, stuff like that. So when someone uploads this kind of data, they just manually, or sorry, automatically label this data for us. That's kind of the idea here at least. And since we have multiple types of categories, it's called multi-class classification. If we have two types, it's called binary class classification. Make sense so far? If not, that's completely okay. So we'll open up a Visual Studio prompt here. We'll move this over from this screen. We'll move this over here. And we'll go ahead and create an example repo here for this change, okay? And let's see, we want to create this, create a new project. So as some of you may know already, when we do ML.NET, we want the console application, especially when we want to do automation or MLOps, those kind of things here. So we're going to put this in an example repo in our Git repository. So we have mlops.net here, and we have source. And what actually we'll do here is I'll create a new folder here called examples. Is that okay? This is where you'll be able to find examples later. And I'll create a new folder here for multi-class classification as an example. And thank you for answering so quickly, User2, Yogi. Alright, select folder. And let's call this mlops.net multi-class classification. Or should we actually, what we should do maybe is create should we create a solution instead for all examples, and then we can have a project for each example. Maybe that's even better. I think we can do that in solution actually. I think I'm going to backtrack a bit on what I'm doing right now. I think it makes sense to create a solution instead for all these things and call it examples. So we'll go ahead and rename the folder to examples here. So let's create, we can still create a console application, but instead of calling it that ML.NET, we'll call it examples. And instead of putting it into this folder here, we'll put it into another folder and remove this one. And we'll call this, actually we don't even need to call it, we'll call it examples here. That's perfect. All right, and like that we can keep adding examples to the solution when we go forward, whether that is multi-classification, regression, or what have you. I think that's going to be useful. Okay, let's create that and look at the structure of this. Dun dun. Love the music. Little Carl Franklin gets you going on a Tuesday, you know. Pretty repetitive, but it sure gets your alpha waves going, I think. Alright, let me just double check the structure of this to make sure that we actually created the right folder here. mlops.net, examples. Okay, I think that is just fine. Alright, so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to create an example solution of this for us. And the first thing we want to do when it comes to machine learning stuff is always to add dependency here. And the dependency in our case here is going to be to ml.net. So we'll go to the package console here. And for those who haven't used it yet, like Sean for example, it's a NuGet package you can download. And it's called Microsoft.ml. The latest version was released a couple of weeks ago. It's 1.5, I believe. It's been in preview for like forever, but it finally got released to the real version. And am I using a local source? That's why it's failing? Probably. Let's see. Or am I just not getting it working properly? Okay, let's try it again here. Not sure why my local didn't work, but this is just going to work. Okay. Alright, that is installed. Perfect. So we can see here we have multiple projects as well, multiple types of libraries for the same thing, but they're different algorithms and different use cases. So once you start playing around with this, you will find the one that actually makes sense for you. But for our case, I think having the base package here is going to be just enough for our cases. So when we do this, one thing I want us to do is I don't want us to use the model builder too much, because I want our code to be simple and easy to understand, and I want us to focus more on the MLOps part instead here. So to do that, I'm going to add some comments just to kind of comment the flow here. So first thing we want to do is load the data, transform. We want to do things like train the model. We want to evaluate the model. We want to save the model. That's the general ML.NET flow here. And in our case here, we also want to do other things here. So we want to add MLOps context, and I'll add it like this as a comment. So experiment and run. We want to, when we evaluate the model, this is ML.NET, we want to do an MLOps thing here, which is log metrics, right? And once we save the model in ML.NET, we want to MLOps upload artifact or model to our storage container or something like that. And I know AJ is working on some really cool stuff as well to like log hyperparameters and other things here that we do during the training phase, but we'll skip that for now here. So let's start by doing the ML.NET stuff here, and then we'll get into the MLOps stuff here. So first thing we want to do is always to create ML context. So ML context, we'll put a seed to 1, and we'll get back to seed 1 later if you want to know what that is. But ML context is kind of the ML.NET catalog for all these things, and it holds tons of different properties, each of them holding multiple methods. So for example, if you want to work with our data, you'll find it in the data catalog. If you want to work with the model, you find it here, transforms, forecasting, so forth. Definitely go ahead and explore this at your own time. It's a really good place to get things started. Next thing we want to do is load the data. So we need to add a data to our example here. And we actually want to rename this one, I think, to something else than examples, because this is going to be the multi-class classification example. Like that, right? And we'll call this multi-class classification as a namespace. Alright, that's good. Yeah, I think this is a good template in general. Okay, we'll see if that's the case or not, but hopefully it will be a good example. So first thing we want to do here is we need to load the data. So to do that, we need to add a data, and I'll put it into a data folder for us to make sense here. And what I'll do is I will just make it part of the solution. So we push it to GitHub. It will be there for everyone to kind of download and use and have fun with. And I have a sample data in my other repo here, and what we will use is this one that is in here, like this. It's called flipcom something something. We'll rename this to something more easy, so let's call it like e-commerce instead, and just that'll be easier to understand. And what we'll also do here is we'll go ahead and make sure we copy it to the output folder all the time, so when we train the model, it's going to be available for the binaries to run on. Okay. What we'll then do is create a simple constant here to hold the data path. Actually, we'll skip that because it's such a simple thing. We'll just input directly. But we want to, before we can actually use this for machine learning or do something with it, we need to load it into memory and play around with the data. And that will be data variable, and we'll get that from the ML context, load from data, load from text file, which is going to kind of pull that CSV file into memory, and we can play with it. It takes a couple of things, the path, and it can be a relative path or it can be an absolute path. For us, we'll just use the relative path because we're copying it out to the output folder where we have things. So that's going to be that. Okay, that's good. The second thing we want to do here is make sure we skip the first line, because the first line has headers. So we have headers. So there's a property called has headers. We'll say true, because otherwise it will read the first line, it will be messed up. And the last thing we always want to do here is that we want to set a separated char. The default one is tab separated, and we are doing a comma separated file here. So we want to make sure we indicate that to the application. Alright. It's still red, and the reason why it's red is because it's a generic method. So we need a schema to do this on. So what we'll do is we'll add a schema here, and we'll just add a new folder here for that to make sense here. Add folder. I'll call it entities. And we're going to call this product information, I think. So each row in this CSV file is going to be something we want to play with. So product information is kind of what each row holds, right? It's like brand and type and those kind of things here. So we need to define the schema, and if we look at the file, we will see that we have a couple of columns here. The first one is product name, which holds the name, of course, product. The second one is going to be category. Wow, why is it doing that? Category. And we got two more columns that we want to use here. We have the price. We have actually we have two more after this as well. We have the description. That's going to hold some kind of predictive power. We also have the brand, so that's going to be a string as well, like that. One thing you notice is that I put float for price, and that's intentional because we are using floating values when we calculate these things, so any numeric things need to be float. Just put float directly if you see a number. That's going to be the most common use case. So for the MLNet to understand where these columns are and how to fetch them, we need to decorate each of these properties with a load column, and that's just the index in the file itself. So load column 0 means the first column, of course, and we'll then just do the same for the rest here as well. So this is going to be 1, this is going to be 2, this is going to be 3, this is going to be 4. So that's just the index of all the columns. Perfect. So with that schema, we should now be able to load our data into memory. So product information. All right, perfect. So now we have our data into memory and we are kind of good to go here, okay? So once we have that, we need to start thinking about how to train the model and transform the data into something that makes sense. One way of doing that is to create a data processing pipeline here for us to play with. So what we'll do here, I wonder if we're going to do cross-validation here, or we can use splitting the data for us. I think for our case here, let's do data splitting and see if that works. So in general, you want the data to be in two portions here: data to train a model on and data to test the model on. If you have little data like we have right now, we can use cross-validation, but it's a little bit harder to explain, I think, than just regular split. So I'm going to do regular split here because we want to keep it simple to just showcase our model and MLOps.NET. So what we'll do is just do ML context, data. Sure, let's look at that. So the data we have in a CSV file is kind of what we put into our categories here. So product name is one property, right? Category, price, description, and brand. So we have 5 columns, right? And what we're trying to predict is the category, I think, based on the other columns we have here. So you can imagine that, you know, reading the description, you probably understand if it's a furniture or if it's clothing or pet supplies. So this is probably going to be useful for these things. So this is kind of the data we have right now. But for a trained model, this is something called supervised learning. So to do supervised learning, we need to split the data into a training set and a test set. So we can train a model on a train set, which is like 80% of the data, and then test it on unforeseen data to get the metrics to see how good it is. So to do that, we can use a built-in method for this called test train split, and all we need to do is pass in the data into this to get it working. There are multiple overloads here, so we can define how big the split should be, if it should be like 80% or 90%, but I will just do the regular here, which is like 90-10. That should be fine for us. Alright, if you have any more questions when I do this, definitely ask. I know I'm running through a little bit fast here, but it's because I want to showcase the MLOps part as well here. So before we train a model, we need to process the data, and we need to make sure things are like mapped correctly. So what we can do here is create a data processing pipeline, and we can add some transformations on this. So everything in ML.NET is about chaining methods together. So we'll chain transforms here, and then we'll chain a trainer, and we'll keep chaining evaluation metrics. So we're just appending things in this chain that we're eventually going to execute to get our final model. And why do we need to do this? Well, we can't really work with strings. So if you look at the data itself here, it had these kind of columns right here, and a model doesn't know what to do with these. It's just gibberish for them. It needs to be numbers instead. So we need to transform these strings in some smart way to be numerical, and there are different built-in functions to do this, so it's not difficult by any means, but it's something we need to address here. And the first thing we want to do here is making sure we get that done here. So what we can do here is transforms, conversion, map value to key. It's called map value to key, right? I think, yeah. So what we're doing here, first of all, is we are taking our category column, so categories, and we're making sure that that one has actually a numeric value. So category is going to be what we are trying to predict. So we don't need to do anything fancy here. It only has a couple permutations, but it will. What the library will do is it will look at all those permutations, and it will add like a number or label to each of the permutations. So if you have like 15 different categories, each of them will have its own number. So like clothing is 3, or rucksacks is 5, you know? And all we need to do here is just pass in the name of the column, and I like to do it through something like this, just in case we change the name like this. So that's pretty straightforward as a category. Other things we want to do here is we want to transform the product name and the brand and the description to something that makes sense for the models. And there's many ways of doing this. We can either use something called one-hot hash encoding to do this, which looks at the different values in the columns, and it will create like binary columns for each of those permutations. So if we have something like very low cardinality, let's say we have a type of car, for example, in one of these columns, which we don't. But let's say we have that. There's just not that many type of cars. So we may have like a Mazda, we have an Audi, or whatever we have. And what it will do is we'll create a column for like is Mazda or is Audi behind the scenes, and it'll put a 1 or a 0 in the column for you if that's the case on the column. So if there's a Mazda in a row, it will say is Mazda 1, is Audi 0. So that works really well if we don't have like a big cardinality in our columns. Other things we can do here is to create n-grams and char-grams, which is more useful with text that can have like arbitrary change. So good question actually. So map value to key here, user 2, is that it's only really used for the label. So in our case here, we are using it for a label, which is what we're trying to predict. And also because category has a defined space, if that makes sense. There's not that many categories, just a couple of them. But if we had like an enormous space here, we wouldn't be able to find the right value here. So in our case, it doesn't make sense to do that for like description, because each description is most likely going to be unique, because each product has its own description. So we have that like infinite number of possible labels. So it doesn't really help the model. All right, I'll keep writing this real quick here. So what we want to do is append something here. And no worries, good question, by the way. No question is bad. But what we want to do here is we want to featureize the text here. Not yet, no. We're getting there. We want to do text, I think. So we can use some text transformations here. And what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and featureize product. We'll featureize the product name here, because that's going to be like, you know, we can have multiple product names. We don't really know how many we have. We're going to featureize the description, because description is also kind of unique. There's not any reason to label that. Description. And when it comes to the brand though, exactly what you're saying here, User2, the brand is more specific. Like there's not too many brands out there. So we can use something called one-hot encoding here instead. And that will create specific, we'll actually do one-hot hash encoding to make it a little bit easier to memory. That will create a specific columns in the background here for these different values. And all of these, by the way, if you feel like it's just like gibberish and like how do you know these things, you can play around with the model builder a bit to understand how things are working. But it all comes down to just trying, because I have no idea if this transformation pipeline is going to work first time, but I kind of know where to start, and we'll go from there if it works or not. If it doesn't work, we'll just change the pipeline and make it better. At the end, we'll get a model anyway that we can play around with and see if that works. Alright, product name is there, description is there, brand, category. Alright, so the last thing we want to do before we do anything else is that we want to create, we want to append a normalization. So we want to make sure we normalize everything here to good values. And we'll do min-max normalization here. Actually, first thing we want to do here, sorry. First thing we want to do here is we want to summarize which features we're going to use here. So which features are we going to actually have as part of our machine learning model? Which ones are we going to train it on? Well, we already said we're going to use product name, description, and brand here. So that's definitely something we want to do. So those are 3 ones. I feel like I'm missing one. I'm looking at the Excel sheet right here. Product name. Actually, we don't need retail price, so we'll skip that. That's what we're missing here. But what we'll do here is we'll concatenate. Yeah, exactly, Sean. We're missing price. I think price. Let's skip that for now, because I don't think it's actually, let's put it in there as well. Price itself is already a float, so we don't need to transform it. It's actually already in good condition. But what we're doing right here is we're concatenating all of our columns, or our features, as we call it in machine learning, to a feature vector. So that's feature vector is a float vector in multi-dimensional space. And that sounds complicated, but we don't really need to know that. All we need to know is that we need to create a column called features, and we're just going to append a number of these together. So what you need to do here is just do the name of each of these ones here. It's like a parameter of strings. So we'll do that one. We'll do product name. We'll do brand. And that will kind of conclude our feature vector. All right. And the final thing we want to do before we... And the price, sorry, price. The final thing we want to do here is we want to normalize all the values. So right now they are going to have very different scales. The price has one scale, like up to $1,000 or something, and everything else is normalized to more or less 1. So we want to make sure we normalize this vector to between 0 and 1, or mean max more or less. So everything has its own scale. And that could be easily done by normalize mean max and do that on a features column here. And we can definitely go into these things more in detail later if this is something you want to learn more about. But I'm trying to keep it a little light right now to make sure we can focus on the other cool things. And do we need one more? Don't think so, right? Huh, okay. Alright, so we got that done. So now we're pretty close to getting the model here. So once we have our pipeline here, what we're doing, of course, is transforming everything. It's cleaning up data, doing all kinds of stuff, prepping it to train the model on it. So the next thing here is to pick the algorithm we want to use, and then to train the model to get something working, and then evaluate that model for performance. So what we'll do here is we'll pick a trainer, and actually what we'll do here is just do a training pipeline. Training pipeline. The training pipeline is going to come from our data processing pipeline, and we'll get to append a trainer here. And there are multiple to choose from. In our case, they'll be under multi-classification here, because we're doing multi-classification. If you're doing something else, like binary classification or image recognition, they'll be under those specific catalogs. So just figure out what kind of ML task you're trying to do first, and then find your thing under there, I guess. And there's not too many choices, so once you play around with this a little bit yourself, you will kind of realize what you have to choose from. The algorithms we can choose from is under trainers, so we call them trainers in MLNet, and there are multiple to choose from here. They sound really complicated, okay? Even for me that does this a little bit sometimes, and I don't always know what to choose from here, and that's okay. The idea here is that you try something and you see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, you try something else and you see how that goes. It's very iterative, it is very experimental, and that's the whole point of MLOps.net, because machine learning is very experimental, and we need to try things here, and we need to know how it goes, and that's a run. So an experiment itself is just a whole model itself, but a run each time we try something new. So maybe we change this algorithm, that's a new run, and we need to figure out how good it is. So we need to track those metrics and see how good it is. So we need to track that model and see how good it is. And eventually we'll come up with something that works really well, and we want to publish that to production. And that's why we have these experiments and runs, to make sure we keep track of our own experimentation when we do these things. Alright. But what we're going to do right now is going to use this maximum entropy algorithm for this specific case here. What we need to do here is just pass in the label, so what we're trying to predict here, which is product information category. And the second thing we need to pass in is the features column, and it's called features. So that's what we're passing in here is, okay, what we're predicting and what are we predicting with? What are we using it to predict with? The last thing we want to do here is we want to append a mapping back. So right now, if you just do this, what's going to happen is that it's going to just spit out a number for us, okay? It's like, alright, passing this row of data, and I'm getting a 5 back. and I have no idea what 5 is. It's like, okay, it's a category, I have no idea which one. And that's not very useful for us. So what we can do here is we can append to this chain of commands, we can append a map key to value. So we actually get that like 5, okay, that 5 means clothing, or that 4 means bags. So that's what we're going to append here as well at the final thing. This is optional, but for us to make sense of the data, we'll need to do that as well here. And I think that's on a conversion, and we'll do map key to value, and we're going to do I think we're going to call it predicted label, because I think that's going to be the annotation later. And I'll tell you why that's important later when we use it. But in general, what we do is we're going to add a class for the prediction itself, which is going to hold a property called predicted label, and a property called score, which is like how well we think this is actually the case here. Or actually, I think it's a list of scores. Anyhow, all right. So we have the training pipeline, and that's awesome. And then what we can do here is then just do train model, and we'll take our training pipeline, we'll call fit, we'll pass in our training data. So we have test train data here, right, that we did before, and on that we have a training set. So you see we have this right here. So right now we're taking the training set here, and the test set we'll use during the evaluation phase itself instead. So that should be a good and useful thing. Okay. Perfect. So far we have our model now, and now we just need to evaluate how good it is. And I hope you're all following so far. I know I'm rushing through this a bit. I'm sorry for that. But I would like to get this done at this stream here so we can get it uploaded. Cool, thanks guys. Alright, so evaluation, I haven't done evaluation of this in a while, so let me think about how we want to do this. Because example I'm using is cross-validation, and we're not doing that here. But in general, what we want here is metrics. So we probably want to do ML context, multi-classification, evaluate, pass in, oh sorry, before we do that, predictions. So predictions, train model, transform, test train set, test set. Okay, this may work, I think. So what we're doing here is we're taking our test set, and a test set is something that the model has not seen yet, right? Unseen data. And we are transforming that with the model. So the model is going to guess here. Okay, I think this is clothing. I think this is a bag. It's going to guess different things. So we'll get predictions. But it doesn't really know how good it is. So we will need to pass those predictions into an evaluation method to figure out like how sure it is on these things. And the way we'll do that is pass in what we're trying to predict here. So that should be category. And we also need to pass in the data, I think. I think the data should go first, actually. Like that. And that should give us the metrics. And the metrics we want to log later in MLOps.net. Nice, okay. And finally, what we want to do here is we want to save the model locally before we start working on the MLOps stuff here. And that will be ML context. Yes, test data. Is that a question, Sean? Oh, thank you. You are on the money. Yes, predictions actually. So predictions, you're right there though. So we're using the test data right here to get our predictions. And so we'll have like a guess plus a score. Like how sure am I on this? And we're passing in those predictions into this evaluation method right here. Which is going to measure things like accuracy, how sure we are, F1 score, and other things as well here. That was a great, thank you for catching that. That would have been a mistake. So if you want to save the model is going to be saved as a zip file locally, and you can load a zip file into your application and use it later. But if you want to save it, it's going to be under the model catalog. It's going to be under save. It's going to be train model. It's going to be a schema, so we'll pass in the schema here. You'll find it on the train data and the file path, and we'll call this multi-classification model. That's it. Very, very intuitive here. Alright, nice. So in general, this is how you create a machine learning model very simply in MLOps.NET. You have all the steps here. You load the data, you transform the data, you train the model with your trainer, which you choose here. You evaluate the model, see how good it is, and you save it to disk. Okay? So let's run this. Before we add MLOps sugar here to track all these things, let's run it one time to make sure it doesn't break, because it's definitely a chance that we have missed something here. I haven't done this in a while. If you have any questions while we try to run it, let me know. I hope you're still there and haven't fallen asleep. But now I'm really excited to add our other stuff here if this works. So now we have our pipeline ready. Everything before here, everything above, is lazy loaded. So all of this is just going to happen without any issues. The last part here, the train model, this is where things happen. When we call fit, it's going to load it and it's actually going to do stuff. Other things is just deferred functions. So it exploded. Okay, so we are doing something here that we can't do. Category is key, I know. Oh, okay, we can't do this, sorry. This is the issue. Category is not a feature. It's actually the description we want here. Okay, so we need a description here instead. Okay, let's try it again. Put a breakpoint here. It is being normalized, user2. You see here? What we're doing here is we're normalizing the feature vector. So we're actually normalizing this price as well here. It's just being normalized together with everything else. Does that answer your question? Yep, we're doing everything together. Come on, please work. Alright, so now it's doing something. So we have a command prompt running here, right? And we could have done some logging here to see things, but it is training the model right now. So it's pulling that CSV file up. It is in the background here, it's thinking about, okay, I have these strings and all these kind of text columns. Let's make sure this is not a text column anymore. Let's make sure it is something else, like a binary columns in the background. Let's label it. So it's doing all those things that we've been wanting to do right here. That's what it's trying to do right now. And once it's done that, it's going to use this algorithm here to iterate a couple of times to find good weights and biases for our algorithm itself here, which is going to eventually give us a training pipeline. And I think that, let's see if it's doing this. Hopefully it doesn't break. I think it's going to take a little bit of time here because it's has quite a bit of data to train it on, and when I stream sometimes it can be a bit slow. So let's see, I'm gonna give it maybe one more minute, and then if it doesn't finish by then I will kind of stop it so we can continue on the MLOps stuff in the meantime. Hopefully that works. And if you joined this stream so far today and not following me yet and think that this is kind of interesting, definitely hit that follow button and you get notified next time I go online. Yep, good question, Sean. So the model type will be a zip file. The zip file is going to contain the schema of the model, and it's going to contain the weights and biases and the pipeline information that we have. So right now, if you just do it like this, it's going to only be able to consumed by ML.NET. But what you can do is you can actually export the model as an ONNX model instead. ONNX stands for Open Neural Network Exchange. And that model is like it's a format that's used between Microsoft and Google and Apple and other big companies. So if you export it as an ONNX model, you can then import it in like scikit-learn or whatever and use it in any other framework like as your liking. So that's how you would do it. And similarly, if you have like a deep learning model that you want to use in C#, you can import it as an ONNX model and you can then use it in C# directly. So the ONNX is kind of the key here. That's like the bridge between different frameworks. I hope that answers your question. Come on. Okay, I think we're going to stop this real quick here. see how this... Okay. My computer sounds like it's dying, which means it's training pretty hard here and streaming at the same time. So I'm going to stop this work right now, and I'm going to start working on the MLOps part here, and then I'll upload this to the repo anyway, and we can all try it ourselves and see if it works. Sounds good? I hope so, 'cause that's what I'm doing. So what we can do here now is we can install our MLOps NuGet package that we just published, and I will do the SQLite version, so you all can do without any other dependencies needed. mlops.net. Hopefully we have our latest version available now to us. Okay. Nice, look at that. So we have our latest version here that we just published earlier. The 52 version with alpha that was published today, June 9th. That is awesome. So let's get that down. And we'll use the SQLite storage backing provider here. Our things. Okay. Sorry, here. Alright. That is good. So what we will do here is we will go ahead and first create a MLOps context. And the way we do that is an MLOps builder. And we will do use SQLite as a backing provider here. And we'll do build. And is this missing something here? Okay, destination folder. We should probably make this. A conditional, optional variable. I don't want to have to do that all the time because I want it to be defaulted. But for now, let's put it to C MLOps here as a place to go. All right. So what we're saying here is that if I upload artifacts, artifacts are going to go here. And if I use this in general, it's going to go to my SQLite kind of backing provider here for all the things I want to try. Cool. The next thing we want to do is we want to create an experiment and a run. An experiment is the overarching thing here. So, for example, right now we're creating a product category predictor. So that could be the experiment. It's called product category predictor. But for each time we try to build a model, we'll have a run. And the run will be very, very unique. And each run will have like metrics and how good it is and those kind of things. So what I did was actually create an overload here, so we don't need to create experiment and then run. So we could probably do something like this: run ID, MLOps context, create run async, and that should take the experiment name. So we'll call this, let's call it a multi-class classification. Let's make it something useful. Product category predictor. And we'll do the weight one here. We'll make sure we make this async task, right? Let's see if we get this working. Okay. So what this will do right now is create both an experiment and we'll create a run associated with that experiment, and we'll get back the run ID. And the run ID is important because we want to track the metrics and everything else on the run ID, so we do need that eventually for things here. So with that, we are good to start here. And right now we don't need to do anything here. We just need to train a model and let it go. But once we get down here to the evaluation things here, we didn't not look at the metrics because we didn't get there. But we want to track the metrics in our backing provider here. So we want to know how good it was, like F1 score and those kind of things. And if we look at the evaluate object here that MLOps provides, it has a ton of different, let's see here. It has tons of different doubles, I think. This is a multi-class classification metric. Alright, so we see we have things like accuracy, macro and micro. We have loss reduction and log loss. And we have some other fun stuff like matrices and things like that. The thing we're going to be mostly worried about here is the accuracy, I think. That's going to be something we're going to definitely do. And we also probably want to look at the confusion matrix, but for now we don't have support for that, so that's okay. and those things. We definitely need to add, I think, more features here to make this work later. But for now, we're going to track these ones. That's going to be of type double. But you see here that these things, for example, log loss wants to be as small as possible. So accuracy wants to be as big as possible. So I know we had a discussion earlier on the repo where we had like is best run, which is a great method, but we can't optimize it always to be like the highest value because that's not always the case. Sometimes we want to be the lowest value. But all right, so given that, we can log all of them automatically though. And the way we do that is our MLOps context. We have a method called log metrics async. So we have a log metric async, which just takes the name of the metric and the value, and also the run ID. So that's useful if we have a specific ones we want to log. But we can also just do this one, which is going to take the run ID and the metrics object, I think. Good. And what that will do in the background, let's see if I actually can get into the code here. That'd be really cool. We can't. But we get really nice IntelliSense here. Look at that IntelliSense, because we have those comments. But what it will do is it will use reflection, and it will loop over all the properties on this specific class of type double, and it will log those to our background service. Nice. And the final thing we want to do here is we want to save this model to our storage provider here. And in this case, it's going to be just locally, so it's going to be MLOps in the C drive. But the way we do that is await MLOps context log or upload model, I think. Yeah, upload model. We will say the run ID that we should associate this model with, and then we'll go ahead and do the name of it. It's going to be this one right here, and that should be able to put it into the C drive. Okay. I like all the ML methods are one class. Yeah, definitely. I think we're trying to do a little bit like it as well. Yeah, I think that's true, Frax. I think I've already have that disabled, so I'm a little surprised that I didn't see that. Because if I go in, for example, here, I have already... Oh, I decided not to do it. Okay. I said no earlier today, that's why. But yeah, I have the source link already enabled, so we should be able to do that later. But yeah, definitely think about that, Sean, a bit, how you want to do that. I have been thinking about the same thing, actually, about, you know, I think that's what you're saying is that we should have, on the MLOps builder here, we should have multiple properties instead for, like, the metadata store, the model repository, and those kind of things, and separate those things out into separate objects. Is that what you're saying, Sean? Blink twice, if that's what you're saying. But yeah. Should definitely think about that a little bit. That's something we may want to do. Alright, but does this make sense so far for you all? Like, is this something that you agree on? Does it help you understand how we want to use this library later? I hope so. Alright, what I'm gonna do now, because I haven't run it, but I want to do is I want to upload this to our repo, open a PR, and get this in, so you can look at it whenever you feel like you want to look at it. And we'll try to run it later, maybe through some tests and stuff like that. Perfect. All right, so let's get an issue here. I'll associate this with an issue. I won't close it, so if Sam, if you're still on the stream today, I'll leave it open because I think we'll have multiple of these available. Maybe actually we'll I'll open a new issue for like multi-classification here. So what I'll say is multi-class classification example. Yeah, I forgot that it's you, right? Sammy, you're a user too, right? I forgot about that in the beginning. Cool. All right, Sammy, perfect. So I'll add an issue for multi-classification because I think what you were working on was regression, right? So that's something you can continue working on if you want to. Okay, and you can open the same kind of solution if you want to and use that for this. Alright, so that's going to be issue number 91. Branch, new branch, issue 91. and do that. Perfect. And I think I want everyone to look at this example when they have a chance, because I think already now when I looked at it, I saw, okay, we definitely need support for that, or we need support for that as well. So I think it's helpful to understand like what things we can track and what things we can't track and how we want to do that. So definitely have a look, and hopefully that will be helpful for you all. Wow, it's a long stream today, almost 2 hours. Too much fun hanging out with you all, guys. Thank you for joining. I know it's been a long session, but it's been productive. Okay, so we'll do added multi-class classification example. I'll just say relate. Actually, this one fixes it. Fixes 91. An initial example for multi-class classification using our latest MLOps.NET dependency and SQLite. So as you can see, we're using SQLite. So we may want to use an example as well with Azure Storage, but I feel like it's pretty similar. The only thing that will be different is passing in the connection string, and you know, that's fine. That's pretty straightforward. But I'm going to review this later today as well. Cool, yeah. I think what you want to do, Sammy, is probably just remove your fork and refork it again, and store what you've done so far somewhere else, and look at this solution and kind of go from there, I think. Yeah, I think that's gonna be easiest, because I know we've been going at it this weekend. It's been fast. All right, so perfect. So I'm gonna add some issues that I've already seen that we need to fix here while looking at this before ending this stream today. So one of the things I wanted to do here that I saw is that make destination folder optional for SQLite storage provider. That's something we want to do. Destination folder is currently required, should be optional and defaulted. You're welcome. I'm glad you could join. I hope this was useful for you all, and you enjoyed it. I just like hanging out with you. Plus, it's fun to get some things done here as well. Thanks, Sean. Good that you liked it. So I'm adding some things here. So if you feel like you want to contribute already to this, you can already pick some of these up, because these are pretty simple. This is should be like one line of code here. That should be kind of good first issue. And I won't touch these issues here, so you can kind of do it. Another thing we want to do here is we want to capture confusion, the matrix. Classification. So we can definitely go into that one later and kind of look at what that is, but it's super useful to understand how the model thinks. Like, how does it confuse different classes together, like different categories. So we definitely want to capture that, and we can't do that in the metrics table. We need a new table. Need a new entity for this to store. Relate confusion matrix is coupled with a run. Alright. That one is up for grabs. It won't be as easy, this one, but it's not going to be super hard, I think, neither. Let me change this a bit better. We currently have no way of storing the confusion matrix of a classification. Run. We'll need to add support for this. I think that's going to be a good one. Let's see, anything else I want to add here? I think that's good right now. I will definitely run the sample again and see if there's anything else we want to do here. We have tons of good examples here to start with, so if you want to do something, definitely do so. I just want to say thank you again, everyone, to your support and what you're doing in the repo. I think it's super exciting. I think we have enough soon to start using our Blazor clients, and I will make sure to read up a bit more on that before we do that next time, so it's not too boring. But I'm going to sign off now and have some lunch and then go back to my real work. But thank you for following, and if you don't follow yet, please hit the follow button, and I'll make sure to see you next time. And on Saturday we'll have a session with Ravi, and we'll go ahead and continue building models together and learn from there. And I think the next thing we'll do with Ravi is deploy models to production and see how you can consume them. And that's something we didn't look at today, so we'll definitely want to do that. But until next time, have a fantastic week and a fantastic day, guys. Thank you.